What if I told you that some of history's most prolific serial killers weren't lurking in dark alleys, but sitting on thrones, wearing crowns, and commanding armies? The truth is, the most terrifying murderers in human history weren't outcasts. They were royalty, nobles, and respected members of society who used their power to satisfy the darkest human impulses. Meet Gilles de Rais, a French nobleman who fought alongside Joan of Arc and was hailed as a war hero. But behind his decorated military career lay a horror so unspeakable that even medieval courts, accustomed to brutality, were shocked into action. Between 1432 and 1440, this respected baron systematically tortured and murdered an estimated 150 to 300 children in his castle dungeons. You don't learn this in history classes, but de Rais perfected methods of psychological torture that would make modern serial killers seem amateur. He would dress children in fine clothes, feed them elaborate meals, and slowly reveal the instruments he planned to use on them. Witnesses described how he would sit calmly reading books while children screamed in agony, occasionally looking up to admire his handiwork before returning to his literature. The most chilling detail? De Rais claimed he was conducting alchemical experiments to transmute base metals into gold, believing that the suffering of innocents would somehow unlock supernatural powers. His own recorded confession describes how he would smell the victims' blood and examine their severed heads, keeping some as trophies in his private chambers. But here's the revelation that changes everything. De Rais wasn't an isolated madman. He was part of a broader pattern of aristocratic serial killing that plagued medieval Europe. Hungarian Countess Elizabeth Báthory allegedly bathed in the blood of 650 virgin girls, believing it would preserve her youth. Prince Vlad the Impaler made entertainment of watching thousands die in excruciating agony, dining while listening to their screams. These weren't crimes of passion or survival. They were systematic campaigns of terror enabled by feudal power structures that gave nobility absolute authority over their subjects' lives. Peasants existed as disposable playthings for aristocrats who had grown bored with conventional pleasures and craved increasingly extreme stimulation. The most disturbing truth? These killers operated for decades with full knowledge of their communities. Local priests, servants, and officials all knew what was happening but remained silent because challenging nobility meant death. Evidence was systematically destroyed, witnesses disappeared, and official records were altered to protect the perpetrators' reputations. Even today, many history textbooks gloss over these atrocities, preferring to focus on military achievements and political accomplishments. But the DNA of these medieval monsters lives on in our modern understanding of how unchecked power inevitably corrupts, and how societies willing to ignore evil in high places become complicit in unimaginable horrors. The next time you hear about serial killers, remember, the worst ones wore crowns,